my goodness, it is literally freezing cold. My phone says it's -1, and I'm just going to check and see whether the pond is frozen over and whether I need to bash a hole so the dog can enjoy her morning drink. Hello there, I'm Julie. I'm a novice gardener, and if you're a novice gardener like me, why don't you consider subscribing to my channel and we can cheer each other on no matter whereabouts in the world you are. All you need to do is hit the button marked subscribe, and that means next time you open the YouTube app on your phone, your laptop or your computer, one of my videos will be waiting for you. So I have put on my new gardening gloves, which were a Christmas gift for my husband. I'm wearing them to protect my manicure and as a conventional pair of gloves to keep my hands warm as I see what's been happening in the garden over the festive period. Right, should we check the pond out? There's a rather satisfying crunch as I walk across the lawn, but I'm going to try and stick to the garden path in order that I don't damage the grass. No matter how much water we put out in the kitchen, our dog always rushes out first thing in the morning to drink from the pond. So I'm just seeing whether I can create a little bit of a hole so she's got somewhere to drink from. What do you reckon? Is that 1 centimetre of ice? And seeing those leaves there trapped in the water makes me think, wouldn't it be lovely if our temperatures were consistently below freezing, and then I could make pretty ice lanterns or ice pictures. Actually, I think I have done that 1 year before. Perhaps it was when the Beast from the East was here. Was that 2018? I'll see if I can find the video and leave a link to it in the description under this one. I've got my floristry scissors in hand because I've set myself a goal of cutting something from the garden to enjoy indoors every week of the year. And what can you cut from the garden when it's freezing cold and you've got nothing growing? And I thought that this clump here of the Arum Pictum italicum leaf, the marbled leaf, which is really popular with flower arrangers, would look great in a vase. Only this morning it's collapsed through the weight of the frost. I'll have to wait and see whether the temperatures rise later in the morning and then cut some stems to enjoy indoors. This isn't a particularly long-lasting foliage in the sense of its growing period, and come the springtime, April and definitely into May, it will have disappeared from the garden. My acanthus, or bear's breeches, is suffering a similar fate, and I'm just wondering really if I've got some water collected here, whether I should try and melt that so the birds can have a drink. What I might do is bring out a kettle of water and just pour that on there to see whether I can melt it, or perhaps even regular tap water will do. I know, as I'm out in the garden, I'll see whether I've got water in the water butt and pour some on to melt that ice. As it happened, there was a layer of slushy ice in the water butt, but I have managed to get myself some running water. Let's see if I can. It's not going to work. Floristry scissors, are they going to help? Perhaps it will have to be the kettle after all. Just checking in on my auricular theatre with my violas in it. What do you reckon about deadheading in the frost? Do I just go ahead and do it? Or is that going to damage the plant? It's nice to have a little bit of winter colour. Hopefully the flower will thaw out soon. Did you watch the video that I filmed when I created my instant outdoor garden? I cannot believe how well these hellebores have done. Again, they're frozen. I'm just going to deadhead that. And then all my pine cones, which I've rested here, aren't falling off the table because they've been frozen in place, but they've totally closed up. Every so often, my little metal pan here that's rusting falls down and I have to reposition it. But other than that, it's all looking good. And a new addition, I was gifted a pot of hyacinths. I was going to bring them indoors, but I thought I'm not quite ready for them to spring into action. So I'm holding them back by putting them in the garden, and then when I'm ready to repot them, I'm going to bring those indoors. And what do you do with your Christmas dories after 12th night? Well, I have put mine on my patio table. I just can't quite bear throwing it away just yet. And when I say throwing it away, what I will do is cut all the wires off the back, put those in the bin, and then put all the greenery on the compost heap, and then save the wireframe for Christmas 2024. I need to take that ribbon off as well before it gets too damaged. I'm not quite sure my cold fingers are going to manage with the knot. And if it's not too breezy, I thought I would prop it up at the back of my little vignette here so you could see it next to the red of the ilex berries and the white enamel jug. But every so often the whole lot just falls backwards on the table. So I think probably I'm just going to leave it there for the moment. And while I can't get out into the garden and do any actual gardening, I have got a bit of indoor tidying up to do. You might remember this arrangement that I made using some Christmas greenery and gold sprayed hydrangeas and oak leaves. It's been sitting in my living room and it's totally dried out now. So I've had to be really careful not to knock it too much because some of this foliage is Christmas pine and rosemary. And I didn't want those needles shattering and falling on my living room carpet. But I think the time has come now to throw it all away, so I'm going to put it into my compost bucket. I was thinking about saving some of the hydrangea heads, but because my friend very kindly gifted me loads in the autumn time, I've really got enough to see me throughout the rest of the year. And look, I don't even have to empty the water out. It has totally disappeared. So I am going to carefully wash up this container, and then when my leaves are thawed out in the garden, I might make a simple arrangement, just bring some of the outdoors in. And here's another arrangement that graced my dinner table at Christmas time. So it's another glass bowl. This one's a footed container, which I bought from the bric-a-brac stall when I went to the Appledore Flower Festival over the August bank holiday weekend. So if you're interested in my thrift haul videos and my flower festival videos, I'll leave a link to those playlists in the description under this one. So this arrangement is made with a minimal number of flowers. I've got a gold sprayed pine cone there. This was a supermarket bunch that was well and truly past its sell by date, but rather interestingly it had some quite nice chrysanthemums in it. And rather than being the traditional bloom chrysanthemum, the really big ones, or the ones that look very much like daisies, it was a mid-sized chrysanthemum with multiple petals, so you couldn't see the centre, almost like an old-fashioned one. And another bit of Christmas bling, sparkly pipe cleaners. These came from an arrangement that I won at our local flower club just before Christmas. So I will get rid of all those bits. This will then go out into the compost bin to be collected by the council, and then I'll have to do a little bit of washing up. And this one has still got water in it, so I'm going to tip that into the flower bed. And then rather embarrassingly, you can see what a murky mess I'm left with. So, it's quite disgusting. So really, if you want your flowers to last a long time, you need better hygiene indoors. I'll need to wash this container up in hot soapy water, and then it'll be all ready for my next arrangement. I'll also need to clean my metal flower frog. So what I normally do is use a scrubbing brush to get between the prongs of the flower frog, and then when it's clean, I just douse it with the water that's left over when I've boiled the kettle for a cup of tea. So again, a little bit of housekeeping jobs so that everything is in tip-top condition, ready for my next arrangement. It's just gone midday, so the weather has warmed up a bit. And as I was packing away my bits and pieces after filming earlier on this morning, I suddenly remembered my Christmas Amaryllis, which need a little bit of TLC. And as you can see, I had one very long stem, and the others are about this high, but I have got some new growth coming up. So what I'm going to do is take these out of the pot so I can save and enjoy the small white Amaryllis. And then, if I look after them, fingers crossed my Amaryllis will flower again next Christmas. We'll have to wait and see. So if you are an Amaryllis expert and you've done this kind of thing before, do let me know in the comments what you recommend I should be doing. I'm going to start off by deconstructing. So these were the little plant stakes that I'd made, so I can save those for another time. And then take away the decorative bits of lichen covered branches so I can see what I'm working with. And then finally I'm going to deadhead, so taking the flower away there. And I need to keep the leaves in place. I'm going to take off the bedraggled ones, because that is what is going to give the plant new energy for flowering next year. So it looks tidier already. So I've got 3 in this pot. So I'm presuming that, well, let's think about this. I can't leave the whole pot outside because there's no drainage and they're going to get waterlogged. So I'm thinking that I should replant these and keep them somewhere coolish, just to brave the worst of the wintry weather that we may well get throughout January and February. And then with this one here, to actually bring that indoors and showcase it in its own right. Now, I've forgotten to bring any gardening tools out with me, but I have still got my floristry scissors, so I shall dig up and have a look and see what we've got. Oh gosh, that's a rather disappointing amount of root growth there, and actually there's a faint smell of rotting something, so I think possibly my flowers have become waterlogged. Oh, something good must have happened there with a new shoot. So what I shall do is see if I can save this top dressing of gravel. And then I was thinking, let's move that one out of the way for the moment, that if I put them all in a big pot, that I could sort of overwinter them in that. What do you reckon as an idea? So I'm just going to tip all this into there. And then do what I did before. Or perhaps I ought to reserve some of the soil, because I don't want to bury them. The soil just needs to come about 2/3 of the way up the bulb. So 3 in there, so packing them reasonably tightly and then firming them back in with the rest of the compost. And if I put those on a saucer in a cool room, do you reckon, indoors? A cool sunny room? Hopefully they will start to put on a reasonable amount of growth ready for the new year. Saving that gravel didn't really work, so I'm just going to put it back into the pot. Looks a bit bedraggled. What do you reckon my chances of success are? Well, with the warmth of the midday sun, which isn't particularly warm, the arum Pictum italicum leaves have certainly perked up. So I think I'm going to cut myself half a dozen, and then I can put them into a container to enjoy indoors. So I've washed out the containers from the earlier part of the video, but I've decided to use a different container. I've still got the same big flower frog, but because it shows up quite a lot to the side of the vase, I've chosen this one with this sort of bobbly hobnail finish to it. So it's the leaves that are centre stage rather than the mechanics inside the vase. And I'm going to plant these, for want of a better word, onto the spikes, as if they are an indoor houseplant. So some tall and some a little bit shorter too. And perhaps if I go out and buy some daffodils at the weekend, I could add those in to have a lovely natural looking arrangement. Well, thank you so much for joining me in the garden today, and I'll see you again next week. And if you've got any advice about my Amaryllis plant care, do let me know in the comments.